Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday, and I appreciate you joining us on a Friday afternoon here. So to make sure you're in the right place, this is the RIoT Accelerator Program information session. So I will spend a few minutes just giving a really high-level overview of what we do at RIoT, how we support startups, and how we can get you involved in our accelerator program. But I won't drone on for too long, and I'll make sure that we have plenty of time to just stay on the line, ask questions. I'm happy to just chat and make this conversational as we see fit. So I'll jump in without further ado. So today, specifically, we are speaking about the 8th cohort of the RIoT Accelerator Program. We are launching this cohort on June 9th. And it will run till the end of August. And this program is based at our headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina. Application deadline right here on the screen, April 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's coming up quick, and you can find the application on our website. I'll have a link for you all at the very end of this presentation. So before we get into details on the accelerator program specifically, I want to take a few minutes to just baseline who RIoT is. What are all the different things that we do? Startup support is certainly a big area of focus for us, but we do a number of other things focused on economic development, particularly in emerging technology. So you'll see some of our activities here on the screen, but I want to call out a couple of things specifically. One is that we literally started as a meetup group in 2014, convening folks to talk about IoT, where the future of the economy was going. And now today we're using the term data economy quite often. So how is technology evolving and how is it going to change business? And today we still do a lot of convening around that topic. So we run small format workshop series, such as our Lunch and Learns, all the way up to kind of a traditional conference style events across the country. So lots of ways to plug in and get engaged. If you're interested in joining our events, we still use the Meetup platform, so you can plug in with us there. We also operate essentially an industry consortium. So this is the current kind of roster of RIoT sponsors. We work with about 90 partners that range from multinational technology corporations all the way down to software development firms, engineering firms, even municipal government and universities. So we have a really diverse network. All of these folks are interested in participating in the data economy, and we help connect people to each other and explore those opportunities. So I wanted to give this picture, one, to, of course, thank our sponsors. They're the reason that we can support startups for free. And this is also a good picture of the kind of global IoT ecosystem that we have curated that a lot of our sponsors a lot of our startups then plug into, learn from, get technical resources from. And so really the startups that we bring into our ecosystem are joining a robust community of support resources. And this is my last slide to kind of just give a big picture of the RIoT community and all of our activities. So you'll see here that we have a large community on the Meetup platform, over 9,000 members in our RIoT community. Startups that we've supported, both pre-accelerator program and through the RIoT Accelerator Program, have gone on to raise, actually this number is a little bit outdated due to a recent raise, but over 400 million in capital, and they've created over 750 jobs in the region and beyond. So it's just some early kind of success metrics for the startups that we support. And then you'll see that there are a couple different geographies listed here. So we have centers of operation now in Raleigh and Wilson, North Carolina, and we're growing up in the Northern Virginia area, as well as out in the Denver area of Colorado. So lots of areas that we serve. We're excited to be able to plug in startups in those different geographies to join our kind of broader ecosystem. So this is just a quick snapshot to show you the scope of all the things that we do and the network that you might plug into. So let's get into the Accelerator Program. So we launched the RIoT Accelerator Program in 2018. Prior to that, we had a lot of entrepreneurs that were coming to us on a sort of one-off basis. So we did a lot of mentoring and connecting folks to other experts that they can leverage and technical resources and business partners and so on. And in 2018, we scaled this to a kind of cohort-based model where we can work with groups of entrepreneurs at one time. So fundamentally, the RIoT Accelerator Program is a 12-week intensive program. We provide educational curriculum that we push our startups through, and then layer in a significant amount of one-on-one mentorship, both from the RIoT team and from our kind of broader network. Startups can expect to participate in a number of workshop sessions through this program and connect with tons of our partners. A huge part of what we do through this program is get to know our startups really well and what their needs are, and then help them connect the dots to other people and resources that they should be interfacing with. And I'll mention here that we are now running this program in Raleigh and in Wilson. And so we're essentially running cohorts year round. So outside of this summer cohort that I'll be speaking about today, there are opportunities all the time to get plugged into this startup support resource. This is a picture of our startup base so far since the launch of the RIoT Accelerator Program. We've worked with 48 startups through about almost 7 full cohorts. We're in the final weeks of our 7th cohort. And those companies have gone on to drive more than 200 jobs in the region, drive a significant amount of revenue, which is really exciting, and then of course raise some venture capital for growth as well. Okay, this is a high-level picture of the program curriculum. So over the course of 12 weeks, this is kind of how we break down the different topics that we cover through the RIoT Accelerator Program. So first and foremost, we always have a focus on validation. We work with a broad range of stages of development, but we find that a focus on staying closely engaged with your market and always talking to your customers helps you at any stage of company. So we certainly focus first and foremost on how do you stay closely connected with your customers and ensure that you're solving their problems with the right solutions. The meat of our program is really focused around both product development and business development. So on the product side, we connect resources in to help startups to really flesh out their technology stack. And I'd say most typically we're working with companies that have a prototype or an MVP, and we can help to get your technology to a point of sophistication that you can truly start to work with real customers in the real world. So we support with technical development, certainly, and then we really focus on business development. If you can't drive revenue in your company, then you will quickly go out of business, right? So we help a lot with go-to-market strategy, finding those first customers, ensuring that you can have successful early customer relationships that you can then sell against. And then we also look at how do you scale up a sales process and how do you create really tight marketing around your solution and reach your customers in the right ways. And then finally, towards the end of the 12-week program, we certainly talk about growth. That's important for every startup to kind of have a mind towards growth. In particular, we're looking at how do you build the right team around what you're doing and who are the next critical hires for the next milestones that you need to reach. And then we also, of course, cover funding strategy. Many folks are curious about this. And while we push revenue generated growth first and foremost, we, of course, have connections into the venture capital community if a fundraise is right for a founder. And then we also look at other types of funding, non-dilutive grant funding, even loans where that makes sense, and just help companies to strategize around the right funding vehicles that fit the next kind of milestones or stage that they need to get to. So this high-level curriculum, we cover this typically in a couple of workshop sessions every week. We keep the schedule very consistent. So every startup coming into this program knows exactly what the 12 weeks looks like. And then beyond this education, startups typically have a few mentoring sessions every week. That's both a one-on-one with the RIoT team, as well as we typically match startups with 2 mentors that stick with them through the program as well. Cool. So we get this question a lot, moving into talking about applying for the RIoT Accelerator Program. You want to know if you're a good fit. So the best way to describe this is that we do take quite a broad approach to IoT. So we are kind of an Internet of Things focused organization, but really that term is transient, and we're using that less and less. We use data economy, for example, much more these days. But our focus on IoT means that we're certainly very comfortable working with companies that have proprietary hardware as part of their technology stack, but we work with tons of pure software and SaaS companies as well. So technology startups broadly is who we serve. We work with established startups, so those that are driving a bit of revenue, truly going to market. But we've also worked with lots of entrepreneurs that are at more of an idea stage, and help them to validate their problem solution fit and their product market fit, and get to a point where they can start to pursue a go-to-market strategy. But I'd say our sweet spot is folks that have a prototype or a minimum viable product. They might have a pilot customer or a small kind of early customer base. But really we're helping to get the tech to a level that, again, you can start to work with those first real customers. And then we support with, helping companies truly get their products to market. So companies that are sort of on the precipice of a go-to-market phase is perhaps the best way to describe the companies that we can really move the needle for. And then the final thing I'll mention here is that we are open to a huge variety of industries. So we're quite industry agnostic. We've worked with companies in environmental monitoring, manufacturing, healthcare and med device, some consumer product, even a pet cremation company. So I think we really cover it all, and find that kind of diversity in our cohorts is really interesting and useful for the founders to learn from each other and find analogies, even if they're working in very different industries. Okay, so here's another question that I get really commonly is just like, what are we looking for in an application? What makes a compelling application into our program? And let me emphasize here again that we are an equity-free program. So we don't take an investment, or we don't take an equity stake in your company. We also don't charge entrepreneurs anything to participate in this program. So the competitive application process is the crux of how you get into the RIoT Accelerator Program. So a couple of things here. We're certainly looking for strong indicators of problem solution fit. So that means, have you conducted customer discovery around your problem space? And do you really understand the needs of your customers very clearly? And is the solution that you're designing the right fit to that problem? And what data or evidence can you point to that indicates that you're on the right track and that there's a market demand for what you're working on? A viable business case. So related to this, we're looking for companies that have at least a strong hypothesis of what their business model is. Again, validation here is always useful. If you can tell us that you've confirmed that you have a business model that's a good fit, that's great. Or you have plans to validate that. If you can tell us, we're not sure quite what the business model looks like, but here's our hypothesis and how we're going to tackle validating that hypothesis. We care about a kind of a strong business case, I'd say, much more than we care about all the nitty-gritty details of your technology. We can get into those details as we work with you in a more deep fashion, but you can have the fanciest, coolest technology in the world, but if there's not a strong business case behind it, then what's the point, right? So we want to see that you not only have cool technology and a great idea, but that there's a viable business model behind it. Strong team, you all have probably heard this before. We want to understand that you and your team, if you have one, are the right people for the job. What makes you all equipped to tackle the particular problem that you're solving. So where you can point to experience in the industry or skills from your background that you can leverage in your current venture, that helps us to see that you have a kind of well-rounded skill set on your team that is going to really help you in taking this business to market. A couple of final notes on how you're just crafting your written application. We certainly want you to be thorough and to give us a full picture, but where you can do so in a concise way, that helps us to evaluate really quickly. So balance, giving us all the details with, being straight to the point. Bring in data where you can. Of course, proof points and evidence towards what you're working on gives us a better sense of the market that you're in and what kind of validation that you've done. That's always useful in giving us a concrete picture of your business. And then where you can point to kind of strategic relationships that you have. That is a great indicator that you're on the right track, that you have support around you, that you are leveraging partnerships and able to build strong partnerships towards your business. So those are just a few kind of validating factors that help us get a sense of you're a real business driving real progress, and you're the right people to do it, and you've got the kind of data behind it. Okay, couple more slides here, and then I'll let you all talk, and I can stop talking. I wanted to give a few examples of some companies that we've worked with to give you a sense of just the kinds of startups that we've supported in the past and where they're at today. So I'll speak to each of these four really briefly here. Shift Auto, they came through our first cohort of the accelerator based in Wilson. We ran that program in early 2020, and Shift Auto has a remote pickup and drop off solution for car maintenance. And through our program, they acquired their first 21 car dealership customers. So they were really off to the races. They launched at the beginning of the pandemic and had this kind of nice, naturally, socially distanced solution. So the timing, fortunately, was kind of right for the solution they were bringing to market. To date, they're growing in Wilson. They actually are one of the first tenants at the Gig East Exchange, which is the co-working community that RIoT operates out of in Wilson, and they are growing their team. They're upwards of 15 employees right now. And they're a recent NCIDS seed grant winner. So some great things happening with Shift Auto. Opioid, we worked with last summer, I believe. They have a solution to help identify when people that are getting treated for opioid addiction might drop out of their treatment programs. And they help to provide healthcare workers with interventions that help people to stay in those treatment programs and get the help that they need. Wilmington-based company, they recently won an SBIR grant, which is pretty common for startups that we work with. So they are making some great progress as well. Round is actually a current startup accelerator participant that we're working with in our second Wilson-based cohort. So we're in the final weeks of that program. Round has a really interesting data management portal that they are selling into small and medium-sized businesses to help those businesses to manage customer data in ways that are ethical and appropriate for their customers. Through our program, they have gotten launched with their first customer, which actually is a COVID-19 vaccine tracking app. So a really timely customer that they're deploying with, and they're currently pursuing a fundraise as well. And then Device Solutions, I wanted to mention briefly, Device Solutions is actually a sponsor of RIoT, and they came through as a corporate participant in our program, which is also something that we facilitate. And Device Solutions is an engineering firm here in Raleigh. They had an idea for a new product offering that they leveraged our program to kind of vet and validate if there was a strong market need for this product, and kind of strategize around what their sales process might look like. And I wanted to mention them because they're actually going to be speaking on this particular product. And so you can see a sort of case study of their experience in our program. They're doing a lunch and learn for us in May. So keep up with us on Meetup if you'd like to see them present on that really interesting work. And a couple of final things here. I won't speak to all these companies, but I wanted to give kind of a bigger picture of the types of folks that we worked with. This really exhibits the just deep diversity that we have across a number of different elements in the startups that we support. So you'll see a lot of different industries here. Campana's the pet cremation company that I referenced. Greenstream does environmental monitoring. PhaseDoc has an interesting tool for electronic prototyping. Battery Exchange is in the battery charging space. Green2Go is in the kind of circular economy space. So huge range of the kinds of startups that can leverage our program. Not to mention just the diversity of the founders here. You know, we've got husband and wife teams and women and nonprofit leaders and veterans, like all sorts of folks. And it's a really, you know, becoming a robust community as we run this program more and more. So we look forward to hopefully working with some of you all and bringing you into this network. It's a rich community that we're growing, and we're really excited to be able to support entrepreneurs here in North Carolina and beyond. We take applications from really everywhere. We've had international participants in this program, and it's a lot of fun to be able to support you all as kind of the problem solvers of the world. So with that, I'll leave you with the link here that'll take you to our website with a little bit more detail on this program. You can find the application there. It's a pretty quick application, few written pages. Those will be due on April 30th, and then we will conduct a round of finalist interviews and aim to select our cohort probably about mid-May. So my contact information is here if you don't have that already. And with that, I will stop talking and open the floor to any questions that you all might have. In addition to that, I'm also happy to connect one-on-one if you shoot me a note. So any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or drop something in the chat.
I had a quick question, Rachel, please.
Yes, go ahead.
And that is that I've seen two different conflicting pieces of information. One that with this accelerator would be held virtually, and one that this accelerator would be held in person. Can you confirm?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So as you all can imagine, we've transitioned this program to fully virtual during the pandemic. And so we've run about 4 cohorts with virtual delivery with, I think, quite a lot of success. Moving into this summer cohort, we're hopeful that with vaccines rolling out that this will be an in-person program at our Raleigh offices, where startups have, you know, full-time co-working space available to them and will participate in the workshops and mentoring that we do through this program. That being said, we also are equipped to accommodate remote participation as folks are more comfortable with that. So really our approach here is to say, like, we'd love to start getting, you know, our small group cohorts back together in person in Raleigh for this particular summer program. But we will talk one-on-one with folks to see, you know, if we need to have a virtual option. Does that answer your question?
I believe it does. And so basically the virtual option is on the table.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining.
Definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. Meant to mention that. Cool. What else can I help with?
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
I had a question related to a resubmission. So if I had applied, so my company applied for the accelerator program in the last round.
Yes.
And I was not selected, but I want to kind of, I did make some progress, you know, we got selected in the liftoff program yesterday.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the thing is, if we get if there's is there a possibility that I can request for last reviews so that I can address those comments and make my application for the next round better? Is that something that you would consider?
Yeah, thanks for your question. And thanks for considering reapplying. We actually have a lot of folks that do reapply, and we've accepted folks that have applied, multiple times and shown progress. We get a huge volume of requests for, review and feedback of applications. And unfortunately, we can't accommodate, that volume of giving feedback. But I'm also happy to chat one-on-one. So, anyone that, has a similar question, feel free to reach out to me and I'll see what I can manage. But the long and the short of it is that we love to see repeat applications because it shows us, progress from point A to point B. So we get a better picture of your company. We see that you are starting to drive traction. So where you can show just your learning from one application to another, that's the biggest proof point towards, if you're at a point where you can really leverage our accelerator program. So, in the sense of giving general feedback, just learning from one application to the other, traction since the last time that we've seen an application from you, those are great kind of proof points, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I think, Grant, you raised your hand.
Yeah, hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Grant Millen, I'm up here in Asheville, and we don't have anything like this, anything like RIoT here in Asheville. And my pain point that I've identified is, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you too.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Rachel, you can hear me.
She froze.
She froze. Okay, let's wait for Rachel to come back. Maybe she needs to. Well, hopefully, if she logs back in, that may mean we're all logged off. Rachel,
Back. She's moving now.
She's moving. Rachel, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry, that was me that bugged out.
Yeah, we noticed you froze up. That's okay.
Sorry, y'all. I think I got you back.
Tech things happen. So I'm up here in Asheville, North Carolina. There's nothing like RIoT up here. And my pain point that I've identified is people with disabilities and their visibility. I think that an IoT device that I kind of talked about this with Tom a little bit, and he didn't know what to do maybe, but I think that IoT could be useful in helping to show presence of people with disabilities in a tech way, because advocacy isn't necessarily working that great for them. And you have to do it in a very private way. You can't show where they live. You have to maybe show where they live within 10 miles or even more. But however all those things work out, I want to do a nonprofit. I want to do this in a nonprofit direction. I believe a nonprofit can market products, and the whole development process, it would be very complex. Just that constituency, the disabled, trying to get do a customer development process with disabled folks and their advocacy groups, be very detailed and lengthy. But I'm wondering if it may not be that I have to be in the accelerator, but I'm hoping one person who's trying to do a nonprofit and do something that's very, I hear that you do have all kinds of social impact entrepreneurs involved, but I'm really interested in talking to these 90 partners of yours somehow, and having a design thinking process with them, and maybe the accelerator, but I'm hoping you all will just help me. And maybe I go into the accelerator later, but I will fill out an accelerator application with what I have.
Okay, great.
And see what happens. But that's it. That's where I'm at, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's an application's a useful way to just get to know what you're working on better. But Grant, feel free to just reach out to me over email too, and we can get a conversation. There's a couple folks there's a company, we're doing an AR challenge in partnership with Facebook Reality Labs and US Ignite. And the city of Raleigh and the town of Cary in particular have submitted kind of civic challenges that they'd like entrepreneurs to solve. One of those was around accessibility. And
Wow.
there's a company that is working on, I think they've got like a really minimum viable product for helping folks that with blindness to navigate cities. So
Yep.
we've seen some applications in this space. So I'm happy to talk more about what you're thinking about and see who we can connect in that makes sense.
Well, this other entrepreneur, if that's a North Carolina-based entrepreneur who's working on that blindness solution, I just want to amplify what they're doing. By the way.
Yeah, he's based in Virginia, but I'm happy.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I plan on connecting around the country, but
Perfect.
But anyways, good. Yeah, it's rich. It's a rich constituency because it's 25% of the U.S. population. It was a CDC number I came up with. I found recently that disabled folks are not a shrinking population. They're just getting more and more identified, and COVID created, unfortunately, more of them. But thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Grant. Cool. Other questions?
Hey, Rachel, this is Shabazz again in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Hey, yeah, good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you as well. It was great finding out more about the program that I didn't already know in the beginning, and definitely look forward to putting in an application and hopefully being a part of it.
Fantastic.
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at the go-to-market strategy because with doing the non-emergency transportation, what I found out in North Carolina is a lot of companies, they don't solicit, they really deal with companies that are already established. So in being able to create a niche market, I see how I love how people are able to pivot to new ideas, to think outside the box and say, hey, yeah, I know we're doing the same thing, but guess what? I've got a way to solve a problem that puts me in a whole different arena to bring in customers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I think that part of the cool thing that I've been fortunate to witness with this program and other ways that we support startups broadly is it helps folks to find collaborators and just like learn from each other and lots of pivoting happens, which is great because that means you're listening to your market, and where there are folks that are really kind of symbiotic with what you're working on. We've seen some interesting partnerships come out of that. So anyway, looking forward to seeing where you're at today, Shabazz, and how we can support.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Rachel, this is Cary Stoner out of Raleigh. I got a question for you regarding like the actual product and prototyping stage might be involved. So some of the work that I want to get into might have to deal with going into a lab and having some lab space to optimize what we're looking at. Does your team have any assistance in getting into that area, or would you look more to bring in that information and expand on that?
Yeah, great question. So we certainly have a lot of different technical resources that can help talk through what you're working on and figure out what the right resources are. We have a prototyping lab here in our space in Raleigh that is pretty much designed for like early proof of concept devices. So depending on what capabilities you need, we may have a good fit for that. Other resources are Hangar 6 with the First Flight Venture Center you might look at. And then if you're looking for more engineering support, particularly in wireless, we're part of the same 501c3 nonprofit as the Wireless Research Center based in Wake Forest. So we have lab space there as well. So Cary, I think I've got a call on the calendar with you already. So we'll talk more about what kind of needs you have, and I can help direct from there.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that and just wanted to open up right now, but thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Anything else, folks?
Oh, the one I was going to ask was kind of covered by a grant. So you do nonprofits generally. Is there any special track or special handling for a nonprofit versus a for-profit?
Yeah, really good question. I think generally, Jim, we work with scalable companies. Whether that's a nonprofit or a for-profit is, perhaps kind of secondary to that. But I think we've always taken a broad approach to the kinds of companies we work with. So to some degree, what their specific business structure is not as relevant. It's more about is your product such that we can support well with the resources that we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, there are, I guess there are different business restrictions in nonprofits that I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't, most people don't get those, but one, you accept nonprofits and have done them in the past. And
yeah, absolutely. And we're a nonprofit ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
So
I stalk you guys, so you are.
Yeah, like it's difficult to bring growth capital into a nonprofit, but we focus on revenue driving first and foremost. So I think that makes us a bit more flexible to work with different kinds of business structures. So yes, I think we're open to it for sure.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, my nonprofit doesn't have to do everything, like and creating companies, for-profit companies that do certain things, and the nonprofit is a interface, an advocacy interface for the disabled. It doesn't have to be one thing that I'm doing, one business model necessarily. But tell me the business restrictions. I mean, you just said it, growth injection capital, it's limited. What people get paid is limited.
Yeah, ask that question one more time, Grant.
Well, this gentleman that was just speaking, he said there's certain business restrictions on nonprofits. I mean, it's how much people get paid, and actually get paid. There's quite a, you can get paid quite a bit running a nonprofit, but it's profitability. What is profitable, and he can answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had to do research into how to pay people because of it has to be in the normal range. So you don't have like the equity opportunity or potential that a for-profit would have, like ownership. Our choice of a nonprofit was rooted in lack of ownership. And that was kind of the way we went. But there's also the way you spend money could have implications. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of development work, and then, we have to buy hardware and equipment for that development work. So I've had to learn about that, and the way we do accounting. We do fund accounting instead of typical accounting. So there's another accounting model. So it's been a learning process.
Yeah, I need to be. I'm not going to assume I know something about nonprofits, but I'm not going to assume I'm an expert in being a nonprofit either, as I am not an expert in IoT issues. But thanks for that insight, man.
Yep. I actually think your use case could have some applicability to us. So if you want to chat separately, we can do that.
Oh yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah, drop contact information in the chat if you'd like. Any other questions I can help with?
Hey, Rachel, can you talk about the program itself? How many hours and what days, or is it evenings? Any additional details will be helpful.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So typically we describe this program as about an 8-hour-a-week time commitment. The breakdown of that is we usually run 2 90-minute workshop sessions, and then startups typically have about 3 mentoring sessions a week. The workshops stay on a consistent schedule. So we typically run those on Wednesdays and Thursdays, 10:30 to noon. And then, you know, you'll have a standing one-on-one meeting with us. That's the same every week. You can schedule your mentors kind of at your convenience. But yeah, as far as the kind of in-person programs time where you're either meeting with a mentor or participating in a workshop, it comes out to about 8 hours a week.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Well, I won't keep y'all any longer than you have to on a Friday afternoon, but appreciate you guys joining today and just taking an opportunity to learn a bit more. As I mentioned, always happy to connect offline. Just shoot me a note to the email that's on the screen here. And we have a recording of this session that we'll make available as well. And I think with that, enjoy your Friday afternoon and your weekend. Thanks again for sharing your time with me, and I hope to hear from many of you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye, everybody.